Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and thanks for stopping by yet again. Folks, I'm going to try to go through several things here that may be projects and efforts that you're not aware of. You think only in terms of water in the canal or something along those lines, the mine, the copper mine, all that sort of stuff. Well, that's all where it is, and it's moving along the way it's supposed to. There are other things happening, and it's good, I think, to get a grip on what the country is going through at this point in time, and it will relate to the real estate market and comments I will make later. Now, for instance, there's an electric interconnection project. I have my notes here I'll be reading from with Colombia. It's a 500-kilometer or 300-mile transmission system. It's going to have the capacity to transport 400 megawatts, which is a fair amount, of direct current to Colombia. And what it does is it connects the Central American grid with the Andean grid in South America. And this is going to be the benefit of everybody. So that's moving along, and that's been talked about for a long time. Now we think we've got it all straightened out how we want to do it and so on. And now the Panama Canal Authority has been presenting much of what it plans to do over the next few years. We had quite a presentation. I'll be putting a couple links to that in the description below so you can see it, including a video in English that you can hear about it. Among other things, of course, as you probably have heard, we're trying to develop a new reservoir at the Indio River Basin, and that's proceeding, and that will continue, and that will be taken care of. And of course, the local residents have every right to protest, how much money they get paid for their properties and so on, and what assistance they'll get in moving into other properties, and that's just part of the business. And it's all Panamanians involved. They all know what they're doing, so no one's worried about that terribly. And the canal has always got a reputation for having good relationships with local folks. Now, including that, though, beyond that, I should say, they're already setting the plan for the creation of 2 new ports, ocean ports. Something that I forgot to check, but I think it's one on both sides. But anyhow, there'll be 2 new ports beyond those we already have or are ready to be rolling soon, opening soon. And the potential for 3 more ports. These are ocean ports. These are the big babies, Now, you say, well, that's just, wow, how many ports do you need? Well, the 2 ports are already judged as to be necessary. They're preparing the specifications. This isn't something you do overnight. It takes time. A lot of work has to go into that. But this is the canal's strength, among others, is that it always looks into the future and says, well, just suppose we might need more or something, or we have to enlarge something. What would that be, and where would we put it, and how would it work into the plan? And they don't make any specifics there, but they just do a survey of it, so it gives them an idea where it might conceivably go if growth was necessary. Now, of course, we need to pare back on construction. Of course we will. Yeah, that's no big deal. But we always want to be prepared if there's new construction that's going to be required. That's how the Panamanians built the last canal here about 10 years ago with that same idea. In the event that they had to expand the canal again, they've already done a lot of the work necessary for that to occur while they had the equipment here doing the work. And so if we had to put in another waterway through another regular canal, it could be done a lot cheaper, a lot faster than anybody else could possibly hope to do it, because the basic earth moving and everything else, that work has been done. So that's a big deal right there. They also presented a pipeline for liquefied gases. That can be liquefied nitrogen gas, liquefied petroleum gas, think butane, propane, so on. These gases are brought through by ship now, an extremely important part of the business that the canal is moving it through. We have the canal that was added, the new canal, is just one very large canal and wide canal for these ships specifically. It could be anybody can go down it, but it's really built with them in mind, and the really big ones like that. And we might even build a bigger one if we had to for some reason. But if we only have one now, and they change from the morning moves in one direction, the afternoon in another, and so on, however it needs to be done. to make this work. So what we want to do, without having to go to that much trouble, although it's expensive, is to build a pipeline. And this pipeline will, in terms of barrel equivalents, using the liquefied gases, okay, I would probably move in the neighborhood of 1 million barrels every day from one end to the other. It could be a little more, it could be a little less. That's thinking at the present time. That would be a huge benefit and reduce the number of the big ships that have to come through for LNG and LPG, and open up some space for the really, really large container ships, as well as anything else that we need to get through. So that's also being built there too. I'll again put a link there. There's a video there. If you hit the video, you go ahead and click on it, on one of them, because it will be in English, much to people's surprise, and as well as the background. The text is in English too, but you can hear the man talking about it. If you do that, he will say that the total cost of it will run between $4,000 and $5,000. Well, pardon me, $4,000 and $8,000. Well, don't worry about that. As you will see in the text, I mean, the translator that's being used is AI, of course, a simple and an older one, I suspect. They used to have the same problem with Google. 4 billion in Spanish, as in many other European languages, it would actually be 4,000 million, not 4 billion. Billion means something else, okay? So it sees that, it says 4,000, it's 4,000. And it just ignores the millones that comes after that. So in the text, you'll see it, $4 to $8 billion. So that's the Google, today's Google, in operation. And they figured that one out finally. So if you hear that, don't be too surprised. Oh, yeah, and there's more, of course. There's a railroad running alongside the canal. Are you aware of that? And it's been there since the 1850s, of course, as you've heard about that maybe, but you still have a railroad. And it's normally it's used for certain specific movement of people. But during the course of our last little emergency here with the canal, they did use it, as has been done in the past, to move some of the freight from one end to the other. Now, what would happen is that a ship would come in and they'd be a little overweight, or they'd have a little bit too much of one thing or another to be allowed to run through the canal. So that weight, whatever, these containers, if that's what you normally would be talking about, would be lifted off, put on the train, run alongside the canal, and it would meet the ship at the other end, put it back on, and go. Now, we're not talking large amounts, not huge, but enough so that more ships could get through, and if they were a little bit over what the canal could handle, that was a changing thing during the course of, by the time they got there, if this was a problem, it was definitely much cheaper and much faster just to use that train than to sit there waiting until the water came back. That was not a good idea. So now, Maersk and Mediterranean, which are the two largest ship builders, ship owners, ship everything to do with ships in the world, these huge, huge corporations, both of them are Europe-based, they have both expressed an interest. As I remember reading about it, I think Maersk is the one pushing a little harder on it, maybe, I don't know, but to purchase the rights to control that railroad and keep. I've been on the railroad, by the way. It's a wonderful train. It's a passenger train. Everything else is delightful. I really enjoyed it immensely. It was done for charity. Very rare that this happens. So now, though, that would continue to run because it already carries workers over in the morning and brings them back in the afternoon from the huge free trade zone that we have, about 10,000 workers over there, and brings them out from the city, those who live here, and then brings them back in the afternoon. Well, now they do this other stuff with the purchase of the rights to its operation purchased by one of these firms. It would be added to, it would be expanded, and those would continue, I have no doubt. I'd like to see a regular tourist thing here. We're working on that. But also increasing the use of it for trade, for freight. It has to be shipped back and forth. Do you realize we even actually have an oil pipeline and have had for some years here too? That's up. That's not in the zone area. That's along the Costa Rican border, up that at the far western end, and it works. It works marvelously well. I'll leave you a link so you can go and take a look at that. There's a nice little video goes with it too. Are you getting the idea that maybe we really are building a logistics platform is the word, that's the proper word. We have all of that one. We have Tokumen, we're now adding 12 gates onto the latest terminal, and there'll probably be more to come after that. Anyhow, but money, we have to watch the money. But that also has a much increased free trade area too, along with Panama Pacifico, which indeed has the old Air Force base, which is now used for commercial flights, and which is used by the businesses over in Panama Pacifico. And also, all of this altogether is a terrific, almost incredibly so, logistics platform that's huge for a country that's so small. And if you saw the photo that is the front cover of this particular video, that's a Maersk. It's a big storage area they've built, and recently just opened up, just huge. I think it's 20,000 square meters, which is 2 hectares, which is 5 acres of storage, and there's a lot going on, and a lot of companies have made their commitments here. They're building, and things are going on. So the business atmosphere here is fine. Everybody is aware of Standard & Poor's and Moody. Everybody wants the government to do the right thing and so forth and what have you. But the world moves on, and they so far, they haven't left us by a long shot. And this is big. And I wanted to stress that for you. I'm looking down here to see if there's a whole bunch of other smaller airports too. No big deal there. But what is happening, and now I'm coming to the real estate end of it, is we've been looking at it, Maurice and I, over the last few months. It's a strengthening of it, no question. All right. How to put this? At the upper levels, I've already told you about that. Those have been strong and rising, and that's the result of a whole variety of activities that are bringing in a lot of people who want that particular type of housing, and who can afford it. $500,000, $1 million, $1.5 million, whatever. That is a strong market, put it gently, comparatively. But we haven't had down at the low end of the rental markets where people like I live and so forth and what have you. And people have often said that you can probably get a 1 or 2 bedroom place with a bath and so on. Maybe 1.5 baths and a kitchen and all that sort of stuff. Small, but suitable, $4,000 a month furnished in a nice neighborhood, and probably get a decent view in the process, okay? I wouldn't call it $1,000 anymore. I'd say $1,200, $1,250 is more like it. Now, you can find anything in the city, but people come looking for a particular collection of specialties, things they want to have nearby. Then that focuses it into areas. And that's wise for them because it is going to save a lot of money if they've got the stuff really nearby. If they get themselves too far away from parts of town that they expect to be visiting frequently, it's a little bit more difficult. And if they're not driving and they've got Uber, you can always get an Uber down. So these are areas that are where people are living right now. I live in one of them, okay, San Francisco. But I mean, there's a San Francisco down by the water. There's another one up by the park. I mean, there's a whole variety of areas here that people can and do live in. And that's where we see some strengthening. And I see some practices I don't like. They came up, I really ran into them during the big boom in the early part of this century. Called the bait and switch. It's not as bad, it's not as frequent as I've seen it, but now we're seeing it, and it bugs me. And we put up a really great place at a really great price. Everybody looks and goes, wow. I had that done to me once here some time ago, and I saw the ad and I thought, I don't want to spend that much money, but that is an incredible place they have there. I want to go and take a look at it. Because if I don't, maybe somebody else will share it with me. We'll put it together. And I made the plans. I went out to meet the agent, and she wasn't there, so I waited and waited. And down the street, about half a block, I knew the address. I told her, this is the address I was looking at this particular ad, okay? And it's about half a block down. And I'm thinking, could that be her? Why is she down there? Well, she's standing around looking like she's looking for somebody. So I walked down and said, are you looking for Bob Adams? And she said, yes, here I am. I said, oh, I thought we were going, further back. And I thought the address I had was different. She said, no, this is the place. And we went up and took a look at it. 15 seconds. I took a look at it. This is definitely not what I saw on the internet, and it is absolutely no interest in me whatsoever. And she said, well, I thought that's what you wanted. And I said, no, what I wanted, and I again repeated, is, that's right, of course. Yes, we rented that out a few days ago. We should take it down. And she said, let me do that. I was very annoyed and let her know that, because I had been around this bush. I know other people face it without realizing what's going on sometimes. I saw what was going on. And she said, well, let me take care of it right now. She made this big show of calling up on her cell phone saying, we must take this down. And I thought, yeah, right. Yeah, it's all show. She's not my favorite agent, let me put it that way. But that's the sort of thing I've been seeing a bit of. And in one of the cases here, we had one at $950, which didn't look all that special, but it was all right. It's a potential one. 3 times in the same website, for a real estate website. And I thought, what? And Maurice found it, and we found it separately, so to speak. I mean, it just sticks up. And we thought, they've got 3 apartments. They basically modeled the same, and they had the same furniture in each one of the 3. They're inexpensive rentals and so on. There's only one like that, and it, by the way, is not available. What is going on then by having it 3 times? It's every attempt to get this in front of your eyes. It's at the low level. People looking for the lowest possible level that gives you a decent place. You got to get it in several locations. You want to get there. It's eye candy. That's what it is, guys. So you go out, and that's the bait. That brings in, and then the switch is, it's not available now. But I have another one. It's a little higher than you expected, but it's not far off, and you're off and running, okay? I hate that. It's outright lying. It is unacceptable behavior in American real estate, and it should be here, and it is here, for any number of companies using, they have a system down there that they're beginning to build up. But you're not protected in any way from this stuff. I mean, you can see it. So you have to be if it's too good to be true, it's not necessarily that you're going to know that it's good to be true, but you can listen to, maybe I've said something that may clue you off, or you drop me a note and say, by the way, something of that sort. I don't like it, all right? Then on the other end, this is the people who, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but it's another example of how things are done. These are people with more money to put in. They're not necessarily the big boys with the $2, $3, $4, $5, $10 million who come down, but they are, and the big girls, I might add, but they are maybe, I don't know, $500,000, $250,000, something like that, put together and all that. Anyhow, the advertising is intense coming in for that level. It's to get, everybody knows these places are going up and so forth, and it's a strong market, agreed, but let's face it, it's already gone up quite a bit. There's a limit to how far it will go, but let's not deal with that right now. It's, but they'll use examples. And they'll say something like, this one was, you could buy that back in 2020 for $275,000, and it was recently sold for $462,000. Think of the huge $160,000 profit you could have made. I go, huh? And then they'll do another and another, and they'll have the beginning years that they're choosing to start the thing off in 2019, 2020. We're already seeing a decline in the prices here, and it's actually mentioned in the real estate section of the newspaper, which is always a surprise. But I saw it with members' retirement wave and people coming in and commenting back in 2017, and by 2018 it was very obvious. Other people said it came earlier or later and so on, but by 2019 we think it was an excellent year for the country, and it was. It wasn't. Real estate properties, the prices were falling both in the city and on the coast. And those are the years, 19 and 20, especially 20, shaky, is used for the base, and then they toss in the purchase price later, and like 2, 3, 4 years down the road, when things are way improved, and that's behind us. It's two things. One is we're fooling with COVID and everybody knows it. Please, give us a break. Now, choose your prices over a longer period of time. And secondly, I don't care if they're completely legitimate. You don't show us anything. We don't know anything about it except the numbers you've given us, okay? And we need to know that you've not just done this for 3 or 4, you've done it for the bunch, because it doesn't make any difference if that particular apartment was sold because the guy had to sell and get out, and he sold it at a discount. So this was happening with especially COVID area, and so he was selling it, and the buyer wanted to jump on it and negotiated it down as far as he could, and he took it, and then he turned around later when things had recovered. I mean, if you wanted to get the bargains, you came down here. People were buying and selling in the process of COVID just prior to it and immediately after the relaxation, but it wasn't easy for you outside to get in and out. That's the problem. But there were some deals, let me tell you. Well, I'm sorry, they have absolutely nothing to do with today. So if you're into, we deal occasionally, there are very few, and this is not my pitch here, I don't do that sort of thing, or whatever. And this channel, I mean on YouTube and Retirement Wave and all that. But I also work with some wealthy folks who don't need to form an LLC with a dozen other people, but have the word with all. And when we talk about these things, they may not have all the money they need, but they have enough to get rolling. Let's put it that way. We're talking 7 figures. All right. And they're the ones who are going to make the best deal if they stop and think. And they have to get outside the box to do that. Such things can be found. But if it's any comfort to you, at that level, they're also as short-sighted as people are at every other level. It's just the way it is. And not everybody is an old hand at Latin American real estate. Most of them aren't, to be quite honest. A few people come along, and they've done this before, and so they have a sense of it. They best have done it in Panama because we're different than other countries. They've got to learn. Everyone's got to learn. It doesn't exactly work the same way here. So I'm going into that because that's the whole problem. It disturbs me a little bit because I see the beginnings of some of the malpractices, I thought, of the last time we had our big blow up, bull market, and then boom, it stopped and came down. It didn't actually sink here in the city, but in the countryside, boom, bah, okay? Especially where retirees were predominant. The Boquete area went dead, and finding people who were willing to pay the prices people were asking for up there. But in the city, it wasn't so bad. It was not growing. And then, they would get walloped by COVID and one thing or another. People were not terribly happy. So I could go on, and I'm not going to go on any further. But the important thing for you to know is that the bargains are here, but you may have to, depending on what you're looking at and what you want, the base price, so to speak, for what you want here is going to be something. And that's up to Maurice to do his best, and he gets a little group of agents that get together, they talk about things, they work together, they're independently. They're brokers, they're not agents, they're brokers, and they just talk, and they can help each other out, finding places and so on. And to keep each other aware of what's going on, because we don't have any real statistics here that we can point to. All right. And we know, we get a sense then of what's going on pretty quickly. And it's just getting a little more expensive. And maybe more so in some areas than others. Now, is this because of a massive increase in interest in buying? One group is coming in large numbers. They're from Colombia. I will deal with those in my report from Panama, which is coming along here, slowly but surely, and will be out soon. We have a very special case there, and they could be bringing some of the pressure in their case, for a variety of reasons, historic reasons and what have you, will be coming in at the low to middle range housing, not necessarily just the big expensive stuff, although that too. So there may be some pressure from there as well. But the most important thing, folks, is that we've been through a bunch of crap over the last 6, 7 months or whatever it is. Yeah. Anyhow, we got through it intact, in our honor intact, so to speak. And we're moving, and people can feel it. And here it's, it used to call it the telegraph, the backcountry telegraph out in Africa or whatever. Here it's just a matter of families. It's a family country. And people know people who know people who know people who know people in their family and who are friends of their family and so on, up the income ladder, down the income ladder. They have ways of communicating stuff. And the sense is growing sense now is that we've seen the worst. It's going to get better. And so when that happens, people who have been keeping their prices as low as possible to attract attention are now willing to wait a little bit more to get more money. And so they are raising their, it's not that they can't be dealt with and you can't get a fair price with some, not all of them. Eventually, if they really need to sell. But if they don't, they're very possibly going to hold on in anticipation of things getting better. Their guess is as good as anybody's. I mean, this is, just because you live here doesn't mean you know what's happening, so to speak. And I put a lot of time and effort into it, and I'm forever having to learn. I have to go back out into the market and ask people all the time. So that's what I want to talk about. This is a long time. I've spoken quite a bit. I want to bring it to an end. But there's a lot happening, and there's going to be a lot more happening. There'll be good times, and there'll be rocky times, and the whole routine. But we are moving, and we're looking up, and I'm pleased to be able to say that to you. And I look forward to seeing you once again and getting that report from Panama out to you. I'll mention that again when we get close to it. Thanks.